We think of mantra as coming out of India, and the word mantra is a Sanskrit word. It comes from India, and it refers to their kirtans and their meditation mantras. For those who don't know, mantra is a sound or a word that is used for meditation, for spiritual upliftment. But I think actually all of the traditions have mantra in them, and some more than others. And the old Christian tradition with the Gregorian chant had a lot of powerful mantra, and these days the king of mantra is really the Jewish tradition of all of the Hebrew songs and chants and psalms. If you go to a Jewish service, pretty much everything they do is something to do with the power of word, the power of mantra. Where you're reading from the Torah, or you're singing psalms, or you're doing silent prayers in your head. It's all about the words and their power, and they're very well written. So we can pull on mantras from different parts of the world these days, but it's important to do them well and choose things that have a truly uplifting power. And so it's not so easy to just pull on anything, a word, and use it because it has a good meaning, because mantra is not just about meaning, it's about poetry. It's about creating a feeling through the words. And the great mystics wrote great mystical poetry, which turned into our psalms and our songs. And so they have a lot of deep power. Simply taking any word and using it doesn't necessarily have the same power. It does help that if you're using a sacred language, an old language that was used for spiritual traditions for a long time, such as Hebrew or Sanskrit. But still, the words themselves are not enough. Some people like to call on the angels, and I talked about one alternative for calling on the angels in my previous video about using the 99 names of God and calling on God instead. In the Jewish tradition, in Hebrew, there is a tradition of calling on the angels. Calling on the angels and calling on God in some way at the same time, the angels under God. And they have one particular song, one particular prayer that calls on the angels of peace and the angels of all of the different angels. And so if you wanted to use the Hebrew tradition in order to call on the angels and invoke the angels, then it would be very good to use this particular prayer. It goes, Shalom aleichem, malachei shalom, ha-sharet, malachei Elyon, mi-melech, malachei, ha-melachim, ha-qadosh, Baruch Hu. And a series of you say that 3 times, and then we have a slight variation of that 3 times and a series of different lines. I'll include the exact text down below in the comments or in the about section. And that can also be sung. So there's a traditional song that we often sing, Shalom aleichem, malachei ha-shalom, malachei Elyon, mi-melech, malachei, ha-melachim, ha-qadosh, Baruch Hu. It's called Shalom aleichem. And there are many, many other spiritual songs and psalms and traditions, and using these traditional poetry, this traditional spiritual mantras, has a lot more power than simply calling on something that you invent off the top of your head. Now, one of the main things to consider about this is that when you choose words and you call on them, they will be based on your state of consciousness. And so they will be strengthening your state of consciousness, but really based on the consciousness that you are already in. If you want to elevate that and move to somewhere new, then it helps to take something from somebody who has already been to this new state and use that mantra. And that elevates you and shifts you from one state of consciousness to another state of consciousness. If you just want to strengthen where you are, then using your own poetry can really help. And there is another way that using your own poetry can help, is that if you write poetry, you write art of any kind, it always takes you deeper. It always takes you to a step of finding something a little bit more, expressing that and going deeper. So art takes us a level deeper. But just repeating the same art, the same song that we wrote 20 years ago, or the same poem that we wrote 20 years ago, is not going to elevate us more. Writing new things is going to elevate us more. So the creative spark, the using your creativity and expressing yourself creatively, this is going to take you a step further. But simply repeating words that you have come across, maybe not so much. There you want to work with some tradition that has some history behind it and you know you can trust as being truly elevating.